بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. اللهم صل على محمد. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى. In the next 10 nights, I will be examining one of the most important documents in the religion of Islam. The document being the final will of Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullah wa salamuhu alayh. A document from which many a lesson may be learnt and many an example may be derived. A document with a historical basis and a contemporary significance. And indeed a document which affects each and every one of our lives. The final will of the Imam was written shortly before he died, on the 21st of Ramadan in the 40th year after Hijrah. Unfortunately, many of the great sermons, letters, and indeed documents of the Imam's life have not been examined in the depth with which they should have been. You find that we have a plethora of tradition of the great literature of the Imam that remains with us until today, which until today has not really been scrutinized in the way it should have been. You find that there are many sermons which have been left behind, many letters which have been left behind. And indeed, this final will which has been left behind, but not examined with the amount of depth which could have affected us, with the amount of wisdom that the document has within it. And indeed, this document is of the utmost importance, because this is the final document which we have with us from the Imam's life. As we know, the Imam in his life faced many a trial and many a tribulation. He saw many friends who became enemies, and many enemies who became friends. He saw leadership sway from one party to another. He saw family relationships and community relationships. And therefore his final will would allow us to understand what of the 63 years of Ali ibn Abi Talib's life did he find as important for us to discuss, to look at, and to employ in our own lives. Because when you look at many of the great Arab and non-Arab literary figures, many of them studied in depth the sermons, the documents, and indeed the letters of the Imam. People like Sharif al-Radi, people like Ibn Abi al-Hadid al-Mu'tazili, people like Ibn Muqaffa, people such as Abd al-Azim al-Hasani, all of them in their life studied and paid great attention to the literature of Ali ibn Abi Talib. They recognize that each and every bit of literature that remains with us from Ali ibn Abi Talib has got a great amount of wisdom and many great pieces of advice which can benefit us in our life. Unfortunately, this final will of Imam Ali has not been studied in depth. And therefore you find that in the next 10 nights or so, we will seek to discuss the final will of the Imam and see how much of this final will applies to our life today. And of course, this final will does not just affect Muslims. This final will has pieces of advice which are effective to non-Muslims as well. That's why tonight in this introductory analysis, the first question we pose is, how much of the legacy of Ali ibn Abi Talib have we exported to the non-Muslim world? What do we mean? We mean that Ali ibn Abi Talib was not just a figure who came for the religion of Islam. Ali ibn Abi Talib was a figure who came for the whole of humanity. You find that today, the first question that arises when we look at any of the words or any of the maxims of Ali ibn Abi Talib is, have we allowed Ali ibn Abi Talib to become a figure accessible to the whole of humanity? Because the way we discuss Ali ibn Abi Talib is normally that we cocoon him to the religion of Islam. We don't talk of Ali ibn Abi Talib the humanitarian. We always talk of Ali ibn Abi Talib the Muslim. Whereas in reality you find that Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib is a figure for every single human being today. A Buddhist, a Sikh, a Hindu, a Christian, all of them can benefit from the teachings of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Let's examine how we can export these teachings of Amir al-Mu'mineen to Muslims and non-Muslims alike by asking the following three questions. Number one, how important is interfaith dialogue in the 21st century? And how important is it that we invest in interfaith centers? Number two, did Imam Ali's words affect non-Muslims when he was alive? And which Christians and Jews were affected by his teachings? Number three, in the recent history, which non-Muslim great Christians, Jews, Sikhs, Hindus have been affected by the teachings of Ali ibn Abi Talib? Let's examine this and dissect the topic in complete depth. On the first level, we said that we live today in a very cosmopolitan society. If you look around us in our everyday lives, we deal with people of different ideologies. Our colleagues at work may be Christian. Our neighbors may be Hindus. The people who, for example, are leading our communities may be Jewish. You may find old friends of ours who are Sikh. The communities that surround us today are very cosmopolitan, as in you live in an environment where there is a need not only to know your own religion, but also to appreciate and tolerate the beliefs of others around you. The world today is a world where people of different ideologies live close to one another, interact with one another, seek to coexist with one another. You therefore find that of the utmost importance in the world today is the need for us to look at our common denominators and not our differences. As in the past, Muslims would normally look at other non-Muslims as people of differences. Whereas in the 21st century, the environment we should seek to create is an environment not where we focus on our differences, but rather an environment where we are able to tolerate our similarities. As in, if you look at myself and a Hindu, or myself and a Christian, or myself and a Jew, you will find, for example, all of us have a belief in the importance of justice. Isn't that true? All of us have a belief in the importance of generosity. All of us have a belief in the importance of forbearance. All of us have a recognition of the importance of morals and ethics. Do I need to be a Muslim to appreciate these concepts? Not at all. As in, I will find someone who's not a Muslim, but he has an appreciation of justice, an appreciation of ethics, an appreciation of honor and dignity. The society we live in today, it's vital that it's a society where we are able to tolerate each other's beliefs rather than look at the differences. And that's why the Quran originally wanted us to be people of this particular ideology. In which way? The Quranic vision of society was a society where you were willing to tolerate people who had beliefs other than your beliefs. Muslims today, when they look at non-Muslims, seek to look at the differences. Whereas the religion of Islam in its origin wanted to look at the similarities as human beings. In which way? You find, for example, the verse in the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuhan nas, O mankind, inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha, wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qabaila lita'arafu. Inna akramakum 'inda Allah atqakum. O mankind, we created you from male and female, and from different races and tribes in order that you get to know one another. The best amongst you in the eyes of God is the one who is most conscious of God's presence. Look at the vision of the Quran. In order that you get to know one another, from the outset, the Quran addressed mankind that don't look for each other's differences. Rather, look for each other's similarities and embrace each other's similarities. You find on the second level, the Quran even went a step further. that this religion is a religion which doesn't push people of other religions away, but rather is willing to tolerate the beliefs of other people. The Quran came in chapter 3, verse 64. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالَوْا إِلَى كَلِمَةٍ سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ أَلَّا نَعْبُدَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ وَلَا نُشْرِكْ بِهِ شَيْئًا وَلَا يَتَّخِذْ بَعْضُنَا بَعْضًا أَرْبَابًا مِنْ دُونِ اللَّهِ. O people of the book, come to a joint word between us and you. O Christians, O Jews, come to a joint word between us and you, that we will worship none but God. We will not put partners to God, nor will we take lawgivers besides God. The verse was clearly mentioning that us and the Christians and the Jews aren't people who are meant to look at our differences. On the contrary, we have more prophets of God similar to each other than different. I believe in Adam, a Christian believes in Adam, and someone who is Jewish believes in Adam. I believe in Noah, a Christian believes in Noah, and someone who is Jewish believes in Noah. I believe in David, a Christian believes in David, and someone who is Jewish believes in David. You find that we may have some theological conclusions which are different. Does that mean as human beings we cannot coexist with one another? On the contrary, as human beings, there is a need for us to be tolerant of each other's opinion, for us to peacefully coexist within the society within which we live. And that's why from the outset you find the Holy Prophet highlighting something beautiful, that when his religion was most under threat, it was the help of a Christian that he sought to save the religion. As in, if you were to ask many Muslims today, when your religion was 5, 6 years old, who was it that helped save your religion? And you find within the books of history, it was a Christian who helped save the religion of Islam. In which way? The Prophet, living in Medina, noticed that many of his companions were being harassed. Many of them were, when he was living in Mecca, he noticed many of his companions were being harassed. Many of them were being tortured. Many of them, in some cases, were being excommunicated from the community. You therefore found that the Prophet recognized that this religion will not survive unless some of these companions are willing to migrate. So what did the Prophet do? The Prophet asked these companions, he said to them, I want you to migrate to a faraway land. They said to him, where? He replied, migrate to Abyssinia. They said to him, why Abyssinia? He said, there exists a Christian priest who's a humble human being. Mark the words, humble human. Go towards Abyssinia. The Christian priest is there. Go to him and explain the message of the religion of Islam. And you will find that this Christian priest will welcome you into the society. What happened? You find that Ja'far al-Tayyar, the brother of the Imam, led a group of Muslims towards Africa. When they went towards Africa, Ammar ibn al-As led another contingent of non-Muslims, and they both reached African shore. When they reached African shore, what happened? The Christian priest met both the parties. He looked at Ammar ibn al-As. He said, you are of the Quraysh? They said, yeah. He said, yes. He said, can you explain to me what the problem is? He said, this man Ja'far is the cousin of a man who has taken our people away from the worship of idols. We used to be a group of people who loved the worship of our idols. Our idols used to bring us sustenance. Whereas this man has taken the people away, and he talks of a God that cannot be seen. And he talks of a day of judgment when everybody will be raised alive. And this man says that the male and the female are all equal, and that the black and white are equal as well. You found that the Christian priest looked, and when he looked, he said, that is this true, Ja'far? Ja'far replied, yes, this is true. He said, what do you believe? He said, we believe in the oneness of God, and we believe in prophets who are to have come with a message of truth. All of them coming from Adam until the Prophet Jesus alayhi salam. He said, you believe in Jesus? He said, yes. He said, what do you say about Jesus? He said, we say that Jesus is a prophet of God, and that he came with the message of God, known as the Evangel. He said, what else do you say about Jesus? He says, we talk about Jesus and we say that his mother Mary was a lady of the greatest woman that ever came on this earth, and that we have a chapter in the Quran named after her. He said, you have a chapter named after Mary? I said, yes. And you know that Mary is mentioned more times in the Quran than in the Bible. He said, you have a chapter which is named after? I said, yes. He said, read me the verses of this chapter. When he began to read the verses of this chapter, straight away the priest said, so you believe in Jesus and Mary, and you believe in all the prophets who came before them? He said to him, yes. Ammar ibn al-As said, do not listen to them. They have a sorcerer as their prophet. Do not allow them to come into your community. That Christian priest got his stick out, and he drew a line with it, and he said that what Ja'far says about Islam, this is the difference between his religion and my religion. Ja'far, you and your people will live in my area, and you will be safe and secure, and know that your religion will be safe in my precinct. This Christian priest, the Quran revealed a verse about him. In chapter 5, verse 82, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَلَتَجِدَنَّ أَقْرَبَهُمْ مَوَدَّةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ مِنْهُمْ قِسِّيسِينَ وَرُهْبَانًا وَأَنَّهُمْ لَا يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. You will find the closest of people to the religion of Islam are those who call themselves Christians. Why? Because their priests and their monks are humble human beings. وَإِذَا سَمِعُوا مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ تَرَى أَعْيُنَهُمْ تَفِيضُ مِنَ الدَّمْعِ مِمَّا عَرَوْا مِنَ الْحَقِّ. And when they hear the words that have come down to the Prophet, they will have their what? They will have their tears overflowing from their eyes. You find that this Christian priest allowed the Muslims to live in Africa. They settled there. And they settled there for a great period until the Battle of Khaybar, when Ja'far came back towards Medina. You find that that Christian priest, the Prophet of God, did not look at him and say, Christian. No. He said, fellow brother in humanity. Someone whose common denominator is similar to us. Someone whose principles are the principles that I advocate. Just because his theological conclusion about God is different from mine does not mean I don't build a relationship with him. And that's why in this day and age, this philosophy is missing from the religion of Islam. In this day and age, Muslims are not working with the outreach work that they need to in their communities. You find when we came to live in the Western world, there was a wisdom behind it, that we come and we remove the misconceptions about the religion of Islam through our behavior, through our principles, through a mercy which our Lord sent towards us. And that's why in this generation it is vital that we build interfaith institutions. Many of us today are building mosque after mosque after mosque, but are not building interfaith institutes where our leaders and the leaders of other faiths can come and sit together, discuss their religions, have an understanding of each other's beliefs. If you were to look at the number of non-Muslims who were affected by the members of the household of the Prophet, it highlights to you why interfaith is needed. When you look at the Holy Prophet himself, Guru Nanak used to say that the Prophet Muhammad is an agent of Brahman. He used to say that the Hindu god Brahman, Guru Nanak used to say that the Prophet is one of his agents. Because he used to say a man with such morals can only be an agent of God. You find, for example, that Gandhi himself was affected by the teachings of Imam al-Hussein. Notice that the origin of this religion was what? Was that when we spread our teachings to people of another religion, you will find them appreciating the leaders of this religion. And that's why when it comes to the Imam himself and we discussing his final will, Ali ibn Abi Talib in his lifetime, it wasn't just Muslims who were affected by him, I tell you. Many non-Muslims were affected by the character of Ali ibn Abi Talib in his lifetime. Why? Ali ibn Abi Talib did not look at another Muslim and say, another non-Muslim and say, this person has nothing to do with me. Ali ibn Abi Talib looked at people as two types. Either they are my brothers in faith or my equals in humanity. That message of Ali ibn Abi Talib until today is a cornerstone of Islamic principle. That the Imam, what was his vision? The Imam's vision was mankind is of two types. They are either my brothers in faith or my equals in humanity. Then in another line of his, what does he say? He says a line which highlights his vision. That his vision was that the religion of Islam wasn't just for us. It was for every human. What did he say? Our enemies are not the Christians and the Jews. Our enemy is our own ignorance. Look at many Muslims today. If you were to ask them, who's your enemies? They'll say this group and that group. And they'll begin to label one group after another. Ali ibn Abi Talib, no. Ali ibn Abi Talib said, our enemies not the Christians and the Jews. Our enemies, our own ignorance. The more ignorant we are of the origin of this religion's teachings, the less progress we'll make. And that's why I tell you, when you look at his own lifetime, study the number of non-Muslims who were affected by Amir al-Mu'mineen's character. I remember one day, there's a narration which says that Ali ibn Abi Talib was walking in the road and there was a Jewish man walking alongside him. This Jewish man who was walking alongside him did not know that it's the Imam. The Jewish man just saw him as some Arab from amongst the Arabs in the state. The Jewish man narrates that I saw this man and we were both walking. I said to him, where are you going? He said to me, I'm heading towards Kufa. So I, the Jewish man, said to him that, well, I'm heading towards the Jewish area. So he said to me, very well, let's walk together. He said we had the most pleasant conversation, a beautiful conversation, a conversation of understanding. He was a Muslim, I was a Jew, but we had so much in common. He said, all of a sudden we got near my area. I turned around to him, I said, excuse me, didn't you tell me you had to go to Kufa? He said, yes. He said, so why have you come near my village? He said, because the religion of Islam says that the rights of your traveling companion is that you can only leave them when they have excused you. And you didn't excuse me. So I stayed walking with you until I reached your village. He said, forgive me, I'm sorry. You can go back towards Kufa now. The narration states, this Jewish man says, I had never seen a man this pleasant. So he was walking back towards Kufa now, and it was quite a walk now he's got to go on. He said, my Jewish friend came next to me. He said, did you see who you were walking with just now? He said, I don't know, a very humble man, a very pleasant man, but I didn't manage to catch his name. He said, that's Ali, son of Abu Talib. He said, who? He said, Ali, son of Abu Talib. He said, Ali as in the Khalifa Ali. He said, yes. He said, no, not a chance. He said, why? He said, that this man, I have never seen anyone as humble as him. He said, why? He said, he told me he's meant to go to Kufa, yet he continued walking to our village. I said to him, weren't you meant to go to Kufa? He said, yes. I said to him, so why didn't you go? He said to me, because our principle in Islam is that you've got to give me permission, and you didn't, and I have to continue walking with you. He said, if that's who leads the religion of Islam, then many of us should have more respect for that religion. Look at Ali ibn Abi Talib. The man's Jewish, but does Ali ibn Abi Talib look at him as an enemy? Does he say that these people are not our fellow believers? On the contrary, either you are my brother in what? Either you are my brother in faith or you are my equal in humanity. Look at the story of a Christian man who himself narrates that I had a particular armor, a particular shield that belonged to me. Ali ibn Abi Talib saw me. He says, Ali ibn Abi Talib came up to me. He said to me, excuse me, old man, that belongs to me. I said to him, no, it belongs to me. I know my shield. The Imam replied, look, I'm telling you, I know my shield as well. I've been in a few battles with it. And I'm telling you that belongs to me. The Christian said, very well, we'll go to court over this. The Christian narrates, I took Ali ibn Abi Talib to court. The judge, at the beginning, looked at Ali. He said, oh, Abu al-Hasan, how can I help? And you find that Ali looked at him and said, do not call me by my title and call the Christian by his name. Call me by my name and call the Christian by his name as well. Then the judge looked at me and he said, what is it? So I looked at him and I said, Ali ibn Abi Talib narrates that I looked at the judge and I said to him very clearly, I said to him, oh judge, this belongs to me, this shield. The Christian said, no, on the contrary, belongs to me. The judge looked at Ali and said, Ali, do you have any witnesses? You find that Ali says, no, I don't have any witnesses. The judge said, very well, the case is awarded to the Christian. When Ali ibn Abi Talib was walking out, the Christian was staring at him. Ali ibn Abi Talib looked at him and said, is there a reason you are staring? He said, yes. He said, what is it? He said, today I saw God's justice on earth. He said to him, what do you mean? He said, I took the caliph of the Islamic State to court in the Islamic State. The judge gave evidence against him and gave the ruling against him. Ali walked out of the state. He walked out of the court and he did not disagree with the judge and accepted that I take this. If this is not the justice of God on earth, then I do not know what the justice of God is. A Christian, a case is awarded against him, yet you find with that Christian very clearly that the Christian came forward and saw that Ali ibn Abi Talib was a man tolerant of the belief of others. You find another Christian, for example, begging in the streets, and Ali ibn Abi Talib walking past him, seeing that Christian begging in the streets. He sits by him. He doesn't ask why the Christian is begging. He says, how did we reach a stage where a Christian is begging in the Islamic State? At this moment, he looked at his companions and he said to them, when this Christian was young and he helped serve the state, all of you were there next to him. Now that he's become old, you leave him begging on the ground? I will not move from my position until you come and help this Christian. Until one of you comes and sponsors this Christian. Look at the outlook and the vision of Ali ibn Abi Talib. A vision which wasn't meant to be cocooned for Islam. The problem is that the Muslims cocooned Ali ibn Abi Talib for themselves. Whereas Ali ibn Abi Talib was meant to be for every member of humanity. Ali ibn Abi Talib does not belong to a group of people. Ali ibn Abi Talib, when you discuss him in these nights and discuss his final will, you have to be looking at Ali ibn Abi Talib, the humanitarian leader. And that's why I tell you, when you examine all the personalities in history who have been affected by Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib's life, who are not Muslim, you'll be surprised at the prowess and the stature of some of them. As in, I tell you, we do not understand how many non-Muslims have been affected by the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Let's look at them. Politicians, historians, Hindus, Sikhs, Christians, journalists. Look at some of these men and look at what they were affected by Ali ibn Abi Talib. That when we're about to dissect the will of Imam Ali, look at how important it is that this dissection reaches non-Muslims as well. Look, for example, in politics. Rajiv Gandhi led India for a number of years, didn't he? And he was successful as the leader of the Indian country. Many people revered him. He had strong links and contacts with much of Indian society. Yet you know, when you study Rajiv Gandhi, you are not studying a Muslim. You are studying someone outside of the religion of Islam, involved in the world of politics. They asked Rajiv Gandhi, what was the key to your success in terms of the world of politics? What is it that you could give as a piece of advice? He used to say, whenever I have a cabinet minister come into my cabinet as a new minister, I always have to give him the letter of Ali ibn Abi Talib to Malik al-Ashtar from Nahj al-Balagha. Rajiv Gandhi. Rajiv Gandhi, who does not need to take political advice from anyone, says that if a cabinet minister comes into our government, a new member of parliament, the first document I give him is Ali ibn Abi Talib's letter to Malik al-Ashtar. Because he says no letter about government has been written like Ali's letter to Malik al-Ashtar when he was about to lead the Egyptian people. He says, look at the lines in these letters. Look at what Rajiv Gandhi was inspired by. Rajiv Gandhi says, the lines in these letters affected me very much. The first of them, when he writes to Malik al-Ashtar and he says, O Malik, know that the people of Egypt are of two types. They are either your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity. He says, I looked at the Indian people and I thought to myself, in India, we have Hindus, we have Sikhs, we have Muslims, we have people of different faiths. He said that when I looked at all of this, I thought to myself that Ali ibn Abi Talib's one line makes a lot of sense. I may be a Hindu, that's my faith. But if there are fellow members of humanity living here, then I have to show reverence towards them as well. That is number one. Then he says number two, look at his line when he says, O Malik, have mercy on the people in the way you'd want Allah to have mercy on you. Have mercy on the people in the way you'd want Allah to have mercy on you. How many of us on the Day of Judgment look for God's mercy? How many of us in our own life, we look for God's mercy? And Imam says to Malik, Malik, have mercy on the people of your government in the way you'd want God to have mercy on you. Then he says, that third line which affected me when I was head of India, forgive the people in the way you'd want God to forgive you. Some of us in these nights are going to raise our hands and say, oh God, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me. Yet there's someone in the mosque we still haven't forgiven. So why am I asking God to forgive me when God will turn around to me and say, you cannot forgive my creation and you're arrogant enough to think I'll forgive you? Malik al-Ashtar was told by Ali ibn Abi Talib, what O Malik, people are of two types, your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity. O Malik, show mercy to the people in the way you'd want Allah to show mercy to you. O Malik, forgive the people in the way you'd want Allah to forgive you. Rajiv Gandhi would say that that document, there would not be a member of my parliament unless I gave him Ali ibn Abi Talib's letter to Malik al-Ashtar. Rajiv Gandhi, number one. Number two, look at historians. Thomas Carlyle, the famous Scottish historian, when he discusses Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, he discusses him in a profound way. He looks at him and he has nothing to do with the religion of Islam. Carlyle is just a historian. He says, a chivalrous man with what? With bravery like that of a lion, but with a sense of truth, affection and grace that was worthy of a Christian knighthood. Just mark these beautiful words. These historians don't just say any words. It comes after years of analysis. He says, Ali ibn Abi Talib, a chivalrous man, bravery of a lion, but with a truth, affection and grace worthy of a Christian knighthood. Normally, a brave, chivalrous man is an arrogant man, isn't it? Normally, someone who's brave on the battlefield, who's as brave as a lion according to the historians, you never find affection and grace from them, do you? It's always pure arrogance on the battlefield. They are used to being bloodthirsty warriors. He says, Ali ibn Abi Talib, when I, Thomas Carlyle, a Scottish historian, has studied him, Ali ibn Abi Talib is a chivalrous man, as brave as a lion, but with a truth and an affection and a grace that's what? That is worthy of a Christian knighthood. They asked him, where? Which incident? He says, look at the Battle of Khandaq. Ali ibn Abi Talib has already defeated Ammar ibn Wid. When he's defeated Ammar ibn Wid, the narrations say to us that as soon as he's defeated Ammar ibn Wid in the Battle of Khandaq, the news goes to the camp of Ammar ibn Wid's army. His sister was sitting there in the tents. While she's sitting there, the narrations mention, she was used to her brother defeating the opposition. Nobody could ever come and defeat the brother. Someone came to her with the news. They said to her that, oh sister of Ammar ibn Wid, your brother has just been killed. She said, my brother who wrestles the lions, my brother who's the bravest of warriors? The reply was, yes. She said, which lion killed my brother? The reply was, Ali, son of Abu Talib. She said, who's that? They said to her, a young man. He finished your brother's life. She started walking up to her brother's body to see her brother's body. As she got closer, she was crying and crying. When she sat by her brother's body, all of a sudden she got up and started to smile. They said to her, what's wrong with you? She said, I am honored that the son of Abu Talib killed my brother. They said to her, why? Your brother's just been killed. Why are you honored? She said, the son of Abu Talib is a different human being. Why? She said, my brother, before he starts one-on-one combat with any soldier, whispers in his ear that, oh man, if you are to kill me today, please don't take the armor on my body. The armor belongs to the family. I beg of you, finish my life, but do not take our armor, for it's part of our heritage. She said, I look at my brother's body and I see the armor remain on his body. And I recognize that the soldier who killed him must be a soldier with affection and grace. Because any other soldier with bravery like a lion would have taken the armor and taken it home. All the soldiers of Muhammad are different, but Ali ibn Abi Talib is different to all of them. Because Ali ibn Abi Talib is not just brave, he has affection and grace to keep that shield, so that that shield remains in our family heritage. Carlyle says, Ali ibn Abi Talib is a brave man. He is chivalrous, but at the same time, he has a truth, affection and grace about him that is worthy of a Christian knighthood. That is number two. Number three, Khalil Gibran. After Shakespeare and Lao Tzu, the third most important poet in history is Khalil Gibran. The third most read poetry after Shakespeare and Lao Tzu is Khalil Gibran, the famous Lebanese poet. I'm sure many of you have seen in many a book, there's always a bit of Khalil Gibran somewhere. Either at the beginning, or in the middle, or at the end. Khalil Gibran is a Lebanese Christian, someone would say he would never be affected by Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali ibn Abi Talib is not a Christian. Why would Khalil Gibran be affected? Because Ali ibn Abi Talib is for every human being. Khalil Gibran, what does he say? He says, when you ask me about Ali ibn Abi Talib, he was a prophet to a nation, but not his nation. And belonging to an era which was what? Which was before his era. What do we mean? Khalil Gibran explains Ali ibn Abi Talib in a phenomenal way. He belongs to a nation, but not his nation. Meaning what? Meaning that Ali ibn Abi Talib didn't just belong to the Middle East or to Arabia. Ali ibn Abi Talib, every area of the earth a human being can relate to his life. Ali ibn Abi Talib was only born in Arabia. Rather, Ali ibn Abi Talib's mind is for any human being anywhere in the world. But then Gibran says something else. He belongs to an era before his era, beyond his era. In which way? In that Ali ibn Abi Talib was living amongst a group of people who didn't understand his mindset, didn't understand the greatness of his principles, of his ethics. When he says to them, ask me before you lose me, they reply, how many hairs do we have in our beard? That group of people have not appreciated the power of this man. Gibran says, which man can speak about a peacock's biology years before anyone has studied the meaning of the peacock? Because you know in Nahj al-Balagha, when Imam talks about the peacock, what does he say? Imam says, look at the peacock, and then you'll learn how arrogant people are always very insecure about their lives. Because when you look at a peacock stretches its feathers out in front of you, doesn't it? It lets out those beautiful feathers in front of you. And when you look at the peacock, you say, look how beautiful its feathers are. But you don't concentrate on the fact that a peacock makes you look at its feathers because it's insecure about its skinny legs. Tell me, in Arabia 1,400 years ago, was the mind ready for Ali ibn Abi Talib? Ali ibn Abi Talib is pointing you to the secrets of the earth. And the mind replies back to him, how many hairs do I have in my beard, O son of Abu Talib? And you know the irony, he even gave him the answer when he asked him this question. You find, what does Gibran say? Gibran says, I'm a Lebanese Christian. But Ali ibn Abi Talib doesn't just belong to Islam, he belongs to every human being. When Ali ibn Abi Talib says something, it's beyond a nation. There's not one nation who can claim him. And it's beyond his age. There is never an age which can say it was ready for him. Rather, Ali ibn Abi Talib is beyond a nation and beyond every age. That's number 3. You find when you look in Sikhism, one of the greatest Sikh poets, Kinnaur Singh Abidi, one of the greatest poets in Sikhism. His poetry exists until today. What does Kinnaur Singh say about Ali ibn Abi Talib? He says, I swear you belong to every faith, every age, and every people. And while we are alive, we will never allow anyone to take away from your honor. And while we are alive, we will never allow any nation to claim you as their own. Seek. But he says, we'll never allow any nation to take your honor or to claim you as their own. What's this Sikh man saying? He's saying that I'm disgusted when the Muslims say Ali ibn Abi Talib is theirs. A Muslim should never say Ali ibn Abi Talib is ours. A Muslim should say Ali ibn Abi Talib is for every human being. This Sikh man, Kinnaur Singh, says we the Sikh admire Ali ibn Abi Talib. Because Ali ibn Abi Talib should never belong to an age or a group or a people. No. Ali ibn Abi Talib, his principles, his ethics, his morals, every act of his belongs to every group of people, and we the Sikh will testify to this as well. You find this person talking about Ali ibn Abi Talib in this way as well. Then you find even further than this, that Karaka, one of the great journalists of India, who used to write in a magazine sold in India called Current. It was a Parsi magazine. He used to write in this magazine, and one of his most famous articles was on Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib's legacy. And in that magazine, what does he say? He highlights a beautiful article with a beautiful title. The title is related to the biography of Imam Ali. And in that title, he discusses within the article all the lessons that can be learned from the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib. All the lessons from his maxim and from his will, which we will be discussing in the next nights. Then he says this line, which is a fitting conclusion. He says, trying to understand Ali ibn Abi Talib for a Hindu is like trying to fit the whole ocean into a jar. something which is impossible. Says Ali ibn Abi Talib is impossible to understand that however much you read him, 1 minute you think he's brave, then you think he's a philosopher, then he's a man of mysticism, then he's a man of ethics, then he's a man of science. He says trying to understand Ali is like trying to fit an ocean in a jar. Can you ever fit the whole ocean in a jar? You'll never then be able to fit the ocean of Ali ibn Abi Talib into a mind of a human being. And that's why in these next nights, we will seek to look at the humanitarian aspect of Ali ibn Abi Talib through his final will. What did the Imam write in his final will as pieces of advice for all of us in our life? And what of the world did the Imam see that he felt should be noted within his will? We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us with Muhammad and Al Muhammad, and to allow us to be amongst the companions of our Imam, Imam Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. From tomorrow, the lectures will not be broadcast on the internet. There will be no broadcast of any of these lectures due to their content on the internet, inshallah. I thank the committee for their acceptance of this request from myself. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it, the loudest of your salawat.